and self-actualization. Now, John Powell says actually in his book, belonging is that fundamental thing. Like that is the base of what. So, but Maslow says it's right smack in the middle of the five-tiered triangle of human needs. And then, and in that hierarchy, you need belonging in order for self-growth and self-actualization, right? So, and what I'm putting forth is that belonging is actually an inside job, in that, we need to be working on our own sense of belonging and kind of questioning what might be in our way for us to feel like we belong. And also we need a societal framework that makes sure that belonging is actually like available to everyone. So those are the two things. It's inside and it's outside. And which makes it so that it's so important that now in this time that we figure out how we can feel like we belong. We need inside to feel that we are worthy of belonging, and outside there needs to be a culture that is accepting of differences and has an attitude of inclusion. Inside, we need to come to acceptance and radical self-inquiry and examine how our own expectations, how we see ourselves, how we see the world, influences our own sense of belonging. And again, outside, there needs to be this framework where everyone has the opportunity to belong. So I'm going to segue a little bit and tell you a story. It's a story of belonging. It's a story of expectation. Late one afternoon, a butcher in his butcher shop is surprised when he sees a dog come inside. Dogs have no place in butcher shops, so the butcher shoos him away. A little while later, the dog comes back again. Intrigued in one sense, breaking from the expectation that dogs have no place in a butcher shop, the butcher goes to the dog and notices that it has a note in its mouth. He takes the note and he reads it. Can I have 12 sausages and a leg of lamb, please? The dog has money in his mouth as well. So the butcher takes the money, puts the sausages and the lamb in a bag, and places the handles of the bag in the dog's mouth. The butcher is very curious, and since it's about closing time, he decides to follow the dog. The dog leaves the shop and walks down the street. When it comes to a crosswalk, the dog puts the bag down, jumps up, presses the signal button, and then picks up the bag and waits patiently for the light to turn. It walks across the street with the butcher following him. The dog comes to a bus stop and starts looking at the schedule. The butcher is in awe as the dog stops a bus by putting its left leg up. The butcher follows the dog into the bus. The dog shows the driver a ticket, which is tied to its collar, and the butcher is nearly fainting at this sight, and so are the other passengers on the bus. The dog sits near the driver, watching for his stop. As soon as the stop is in sight, the dog stands and wags its tail to inform the driver. Then, without waiting for the bus to stop completely, it jumps out of the bus and runs to a house very near the stop. The butcher follows him. The dog opens a big iron gate and rushes inside toward the door. But as it approaches the wooden door, the dog suddenly changes its path and heads toward the garden. It goes to the window and it beats its head against it several times. Then it walks back and waits patiently at the door. The butcher watches as a man opens the door and immediately starts yelling at the dog and treating him harshly. The butcher is surprised with this. He runs up and speaks to the man. What in heaven's name are you doing? This dog is a genius. He could be on television for the life of me. The man responds, you call this clever? This is the second time this week that this stupid dog has forgotten the key. Of course, this is not a true story. But stories are oftentimes stories are not true, especially the ones that we tell ourselves, right? Mm-hmm. And probably we all have that experience of like kind of really doing the best that we can and like, forgetting something and actually having our forgetfulness be the things that is most recognized. So I use that story as a kind of inside out. That's the inside version, right? The inside is that we all have a story that we tell ourselves, about how we could either be doing better or could have handled it better or, any number of things. But now is the time, at this time of really extreme othering, that we all kind of become a little more aware of the things that are around our own sense of belonging and our own stories. So that's inside. So let's talk outside, right? How do you build a world where there's more belonging? There's an acceptance of difference, there's a plurality happening. And thus, it was so exciting to find this organization called Othering and Belonging Institute. And it is the visionary behind that is a man, John A. Powell. Now, I do need to tell you that John A. Powell, not unlike bell hooks, does not capitalize any of the first letters in his name. Because he doesn't want to put himself bigger in a way. Wants it all kind of belonging. So the Othering and Belonging Institute, this is from their website, advances groundbreaking approaches to transform structural marginalization and inequality. They are scholars, organizers, communicators, committing to building a world where all people belong. Now, there's a fair amount of interviews with John Powell. If you're doing something, like I was baking bread yesterday, I was listening to like John Powell talk. And here, I want to just share with you his own words from a transcript that was about one of the interviews. He writes, or he says, othering happens at different levels. It can happen between two people, and that's hurtful. It can happen institutionally. When you have a building where people in a wheelchair can't get in the building, then we are structurally othering those people. We're saying they don't belong here. Even if we pick up the wheelchair and bring them in, we've actually denied part of their humanity. There are different ways in which we other. When othering is done by the government, when othering is done by the most powerful in society, when othering is done by people who control the police, who control the military, it has a different balance. Othering is a problem wherever it happens, but it's not the same. There are power dynamics to othering that we have to pay attention to. Now, there's also a book that has just been published. It's called Belonging Without Othering. And this is just this is the definition that is from that book. That is that's not anecdotal. It's more rooted in different principles. I'll read it slowly. Othering is a clarifying frame that reveals a set of common processes conditions, and dynamics that propagate and maintain social group inequality and marginalization. Mm-hmm. Although specific expressions of othering, such as racism or ethnocentrism, are widely recognized and richly studied, the broad phenomenon is inadequately understood. So what he's saying is when you point to like just racism or you point to ableism, then you are missing the point of this other whole big framework, which actually privileges some and marginalizes others. So it's actually a very, very big topic that people are not necessarily talking about. Othering is an expansive term that denotes common mechanisms and similar dynamics undergirding many expressions of prejudice and group-based marginalization and subordination without washing out countless critical differences. He talks a lot about one of the solutions that people come up with, against some of this othering, is to kind of look and just kind of pretend it's all the same, right? You're making it all same. But when you're doing that, you're actually denying people's differences. So it's not really the solution just to make everything the same. And this particular, the Institute uses the term othering as opposed to otherness or otherism or otherized to show that it is a verb, an ongoing and dynamic set of processes rather than a static condition, fixed attitude, sentiment, or predisposition. I just find that fascinating. I do. So with that in mind, what Powell and the Othering and Belonging Institute are arguing for, educating for, and advocating for is a belonging paradigm and framework as the only one that has the potential to ultimately overcome these dynamics and to reweave the social fabric. So inside, we need to take a look at the messages that we carry around. Oh, I'm no good at that. Or again, you think of some other things that you kind of internalize. Oh, someone smarter than me could figure that out. Anybody got any self-talk that's not helpful? I have a lot of it. I could go on forever. Anyway, you can think about it, and in the next several days, it's kind of like, what are you telling yourself? Like in anything that you do. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like, where does that come from? And in one sense, does it serve you? And if what it does is kind of keep you isolated, then that's something to take a look at, because that's not your position in the world. Our positions in the world is that we are connected. We are all part of one organism in a way.
So with this, do they come to give you a solution or a pathway?
Well, yes, absolutely. And I haven't spent a whole lot of time on that. But bridging, how do you bridge the gaps is one of the concepts that they're thinking about. Powell is also saying that there's actually 3 key disconnects. And the first one is the disconnect from each other. The second disconnect is from the earth. He will say, you need to all remember that we come from humus. We come from the earth. And then the other disconnect is like the alienation of individuals. that we're connected in, with our own spirit. We're disconnected from the earth, and we're disconnected from each other. And he talks a lot about those things. And the practices that he's saying is, practice belonging, like understanding, what makes you feel like you belong inside, what makes you feel like when you're outside. I mean, it's very interesting. Big congregations like have, especially, with a lot of different people coming in and out, often like put through these exercises of belonging. The congregation that I interned in, Port Townsend, Quimper Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. I mean, it started in a tiny little building, and then they built another tinier, bigger, slightly bigger building, and then they built this whole thing, and now they're a congregation of 350.
Wow.
And they built the big sanctuary room, like with very limited contractors. So you've got this whole group of people, right, who have that memory and that experience of building that sanctuary together. And then you've got all of these new people coming in, and they don't know the story at all. Right? And so, and there's all these new people. It's not that tight-knit group that built that thing anymore. So it's kind of like this idea of what it takes to like kind of belong. And I love the idea that it's that systemically, like we reweave the social fabric. And here there's this institute that's actually out there doing that. And I also think paying a little more attention. I mean, we are being bombarded with the news that everybody is like desperate. We're all divided. We're just all divided. But there's a place called Othering and Belonging that's doing good work, like clearly identifying, like how do you and holding workshops and conferences. How do you change the paradigm where everyone belongs? So, and interestingly enough, there's no clock anymore.
If we had it, it still wouldn't tell the right time.
That's okay. Anyway, we do have a board meeting after this, so if the service is a little shorter, then we can talk about other things. But today, so I don't know how many people read Heather Cox Richardson. She's a historian, Boston University, and she sends out a letter to Americans about 6 times a week, where she kind of goes through and gives you background and gives you history. Anyway, so today, kind of with this idea of of remembering a time when we actually were all together. She has shared this particular video that I'm about to show you today. So, and how perfect, right? And so we're going to look at this video, which is only 4 minutes, and it's about Apollo 11. In that moment, when everyone saw the earth from a distance, we were all on that planet together. Right? That global consciousness happened in that moment, which means that it could happen, right? And it did happen. And so it's not really so far-fetched that we would actually apply ourselves now, especially in this time of othering, to find a different paradigm that actually shows the connection that we inherently share, not only among ourselves, but with all of the other aspects, the web of life, on our gorgeous earth. Any comments?
I was in California on Hill Street, and I saw that. We had a TV where like 30 people lived in the little places. And we shared one television in the kitchen on the table. I'll never forget. Yeah. Mm.
So I hope I've given you something to ponder, belonging, both as an inside thing, that attribute that we can start to tease apart the narratives, the stories that we tell ourselves, and open ourselves up to uh, connection with people and the earth and ourselves. So we'll extinguish the chalice.
Do you remember that?
So we extinguish this chalice, but we hold in our hearts the fundamental truth that we all belong in a circle of human concern. Maybe so. Tamara, did you want to say something?
Hi, thank you. I love this. Thank you so much. I am wondering just different techniques and well, I don't even know if it's techniques, just opening our heart, I guess. there just seems to be such some people who are just so fervent about not everybody should belong and not everybody does belong, and they're just so fervent, and it's challenging to open my heart to them as well. So it's very
Anybody got
challenging.
any advice for Tamara? Tamara? Sorry. Well, I mean, what popped into my head is, you can love, they say, right? You can still see the humanity of somebody and not necessarily, subscribe to their ideology. And it really has to do with, I think it really has to do with power, but it is something to become very, very aware of right after, when I was looking at that Apollo on YouTube. Right after that, there was a beginning. I watched the beginning of Heather talking about we should all pay attention to redefining what it means to be a citizen. So, because evidently there's some big changes coming in that. So structurally, like through, there are, it's systematic othering. And we're gonna keep on narrowing down the definition of who belongs and who doesn't, which means that all of us need to be, really kind of working on it.
Are there any groups or organizations that are now looking at this issue in terms of just having a discussion?
Well, it's funny. I mean, I'll tell you right out. Last week we didn't have a program for today, and so I was like, I've done a fair amount of programs about belonging. So, I was looking through my archive of belonging, and it was at that point that I asked that same question, Joan. It's kind of like, oh, what are the belonging organizations, right? And there it was, finding that othering and belonging institute. But the other thing is John Powell is connected with a lot of different groups. There's him talking at Bioneers. Bioneers is a wonderful conference. I don't know who puts it on, but it's generally in California, and it's environmentally amazing thought thinkers exploring all sorts of things possible, like how mushrooms can eat oil spills and all sorts of stuff. But Powell talks a lot about this. I mean, I think it might be interesting for us, and as I say, we're going to have a board meeting, and we wanted to move it to Sunday so more people could conceivably participate. And I've got lots of stuff for a light lunch. But point being, it might be something that we want to encourage. Would could the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship and the library, let's just say, I'm making this up right at the spot, but read the book, or maybe we start internally and go, let's read this book. You know what I mean, and see what we might come of it. It's kind of like some of this really is all we are in a time when people stepping up and kind of offering things makes a difference to people. I mean, I, for one, love the idea that if you're looking at racism or looking at these static positions that people are putting forward that we need to be talking about, like that they're actually a subset of belonging. Like, that's fundamental.
I just read this piece in the Times, and it was about what's going on, about how with the conspiracy theory got people to belong. So they all joined together with this belief that this whole thing's going on and the deep state and the whole thing. And what's happened just in the last week is now it seems to be kind of falling apart. They're trying to figure out how to get themselves back together individually, get themselves back together to figure out what actually was the truth of all of this. And it's really, that's why they're so angry. The people, the podcasters are so angry because that whole system they've been under for years now is disintegrated. Now they have to find a new way, to get this, to get their belonging back together.
Right, and it would be lovely if it was like along the criteria,
A better path. Yeah.
of like the Belonging
Yeah.
and Othering Institute. The other thing is the Othering and Belonging Institute does have free courses. Where it's really kind of putting out, okay, we've got individual, racism, we've got structural racism, but we've got systemic racism. You know what I mean? And kind of taking a look at some of these big, broad things and kind of breaking them down so that we can understand them. I mean, some of these things I really do think they're functioning under the radar. We're not aware of it.
Yeah.
Right? They're functioning under the radar. And also being cast as, oh, that's just woke. You know what I mean? We're going to go back to the time when, you needed to be able-bodied and male and, money. This is not a new concept for America. That those are the folks that are in charge. Any other comments about belonging?
Yeah, I just wanted to add something else quick. Just even at the very basic human existence in families, the family dysfunction. So it may not be the larger racism and creed or how we worship or whatever, but that is like I think the fundamental. A lot of problems come from that, from family dysfunction and not being accepted in the family unit. That is just, you are getting set up, and a lot of times that perpetuates over generations. So I just wanted to add that too. It's there's a lot to it. I'm really interested. Thank you for sharing about the book and the institute. I've never heard of it before, so I'm really interested in exploring that. Thank you so much.
Sharon, you got on mute.
Unmute, Sharon.
Yeah, hear you.
Okay, so Tamara just mentioned, family and dysfunction, and I wasn't going to speak about this, but being in theater, I had a lot of gay friends, and they always said that they had to make their own family. Sometimes they just couldn't be accepted at the time. It was a long time ago, and being gay at that time was just so forbidden in every way and illegal in every way. So finding your own family would be something that somebody could do and not depend so much on approval from your own. I'm just throwing that out because I remember that very well. And we had a very large group, and I was a part of it, even though I wasn't gay. I was kind of like their little mascot. They took me everywhere because I lived in a building of all gay guys. So what I wanted to say is, because I'm affiliated with some a political group here, the Democrats, and I find that I'm not really very political. What I always was an activist, and being an activist, I always started small. And I just think that if we take a very small chunk of something, like sometimes I would go door to door and say, we got a lot of weeds on the sidewalk and it looks really bad. And I think our block could look great if we cleaned it up. Do you think Saturday would be a good day? And then all of a sudden people, no matter what they were, if they were interested, not everybody would, started coming out with bags and cleaning up the street. It looked much better. And everybody was very pleased because everybody got the benefit of being a part of something. Even if they weren't joiners, they realized that would be good. And then from there, it just grows to a green thumb lot where everybody had a little plot to plant. I mean, it just grew and grew and grew. And then people wanted to be a part of it. And then people came on board to help work on building a pier in the waterfront that they weren't physically doing, but they all became a part of the process of this kind of an ad hoc committee to get a pier in our neighborhood. There's lots of ways in which you can start very small and become, I guess, a belonger, even if you're not a joiner. If there's something interesting for everybody, then they just join. I don't know what their political persuasions were. I never thought about it. I never asked about it. It wasn't interesting to me. I just wanted to try to get people to do what they thought would be good for everybody in our neighborhood. And it turned out that a lot of people wanted to be a part of it. So that's all I have to say. And in my own personal world, I have four people that work for me, four guys, each of them differently talented. They all get exactly the same pay. Nobody gets more and no one gets less. And there are some that are very talented and some that are not. And the ones that are not kind of work harder at whatever they can do because they want to be able to be a part of the group and contribute. And I think they're all fabulous in that they all do that. So here's what I decided to do. I decided everybody likes pizza, so I fired up my pizza oven and we all rolled our dough and we all made our pizzas and we all had pizza together for lunch. And everybody felt like they were a part of something that was good. And every day I am blessed to have this experience with my workers because I'm a part of them and they're a part of me. And this is just a process that we're doing. That's all I have to say about belonging. Everybody can belong if they're belonging to the right group for them. Only.
What do we want to say about next week?
Next week is Riverfest, and this building is closed, so we're not actually having a service. If we would like, we wondered about meeting, if you want to get together for coffee, 10:15 at Two Queens. It would be a good place to meet. The River Reporter booth is right outside of Two Queens. So if you're around, come to Riverfest and have some coffee. Okay.
All right.
Okay. So Sharon gave you one hint. You want to encourage belonging, eat pizza. So I brought some pizza today. So we will belong. And those board members, anybody wants to stay on, we're really not going to take a long time, in terms of getting refreshments. And we'll kind of move into a very quick and productive board meeting.
At 11:30, so you gotta see. I bring about it here. Okay.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
We got, okay, Blueberry. This is a possibility. I'll do it.
Did you hear me? I didn't get the film. I don't know who else could see the
No,
film, but
we
I didn't
didn't
get the
either.
video. Okay.
The
They
sharing,
should know. Yeah,
Yeah,
they should know
I
that.
didn't either. The
I don't want
sound,
to interrupt you. Yeah, so
oh, I didn't
I
get
thought
the
maybe
sound
everybody
either.
else did.
I
I
didn't get
left
the
a
sound
message.
either.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
posted a message, but I don't know if they
Okay.
saw.
Okay. I just said I'll mention it again because whenever we have music, it doesn't work for us out here because we're at a different, I don't know how that
Yeah,
is.
no, Zoom doesn't work
Music,
with.
I can never hear it. Well, I'm gonna mention it at the meeting just so people are aware that there are certain things that
Yeah,
don't work for us out here,
yeah.
because I'm
Should
I'm
I,
The
out
other
here
should,
thing,
all the time.
should I sign off for the meeting? I mean, I'd like to get more involved, but not just now, but
Sure,
would it be educational for me to stay and just observe? If that
you
wouldn't
can
creep anybody out?
you can stay, and if you
Okay.
when you feel like you can't stay anymore, just go. It's just we're
Okay.
all going to try to figure out stuff. I'm sure you're more than
Okay.
welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Camera, and
you
everyone.
know, the other thing, Sharon and Tamara, is if they would introduce who is in the room, that feeling of belonging, we're at home. We
Yeah.
want to feel like we're at the meeting and we're part of the group.
Yes.
And they would just maybe scan the room. Maybe people could say who they are. I don't know, just
They
some way to.
Well,
usually do. They usually do, but I think we were having some technical issues today. It's not a big deal to me anyway.
also, if they're
Uh-huh.
sitting and they're not mic'd, we don't know what they're saying. So I can't hear what the people in the room are saying if they're not mic'd, if they're the audience and not
Yeah.
mic'd. So that alone, cuts you off from what's going on. So I don't know.
Yeah,
There's some things that I guess we could improve. We'll mention it during the meeting.
right.
So that,
Yeah, because there are some people who will only ever be here, like you, um, by Zoom. We won't
yeah,
be in person, so we
yeah.
need that feeling of who are we
I
worshiping
mean, the
with.
old timers know it and they wish I wouldn't come, but the new people might like me.
Uh, well, I'm gonna turn off my screen and my speaker and do a few exercises while we're waiting for the meeting to start.
Okay, sounds like a plan. I don't know how to do that. I'm not even on my own computer, so I'm just going to hang out and write some
Oh,
notes to myself.
Or I will. I know you set me up. When I got COVID, and it's been terrible. No, but you said.
Oh, I also have, hold on.
Yeah, it's still not fair.
I got,
Called it Boza, and it's a South African frozen.
what I have done.
It's you do it in the
Fly.
not got it right here.
I had so, but it's still frozen.
Yeah.
I opened that door.
Thank you.
All
Do you know if anybody has any piece of paper? Somebody asked me for something. I would have a piece of paper. Paper around here, plain paper.
You can get a sheet over at the coffee shop down the hallway.
You think so?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, yeah.
So 40.
Yeah. I could do everything but sign things.
So that's what I said. If we print it out. All right, let me talk to my wife and see if he'll print it.
The family, if not, secondly, I would ask the people.
I'll print it out. And I'm here. You can fill out the boxes.
And the next time I see you.
Okay.
So I would drop out to the boxes. See it, and just send you the man, but this is the first step. Then I have plenty of pictures, and I copy of your license, your registration, and your insurance card. And then have you go straight, and then we send it off for that. So there's a process. Okay, so. If it's me, then I can move on to the next. Okay, I will take a signature. No problem.
I want to know, and I remember you probably, you told me, but so many years ago, I remember yesterday.
I know it.
You always have the most amazing linen clothing.
I know that happened. My mother.
Where?
Black. My mother was married, divorced, married.
And they go put it in my phone because.
I have it on sale. As the oldest kid,
That's what I remember. Yeah, I remember you.
When my mother died, I
was like a flower, right?
that. I was like, I thought myself. And then he went out and Tumblr.
That has very long smell, there's a stuff out to it. And, but the problem is it's not for any.
What was it, so you had to go? Okay.
It's just an interesting thing. I don't know.
Yeah, right on. You know.
Of course,
Right,
right.
I would be interested in it.
Are they good with their rescue stuff?
Oh, wow. Friday.
Joseph,
relevant to that.
Jam, his last name is.
How?
No, there's no plan, he's okay, both pieces are there.
Sorry.
Walker? You've got the line up. Who wrote the Power of Myth? The Power of Myth.
Oh, Joseph Campbell.
Back on.
Oh, yeah.
Still in good shape.
Just give it to my kid, huh? What else I can give them? You know, because they'll only have each other to have, maybe my younger sister.
By consolidation, I mean, that's the second best.
So you still have two citizens on this?
I know. Save it. And also,
I mean, something that's a little different than three are, you know,
of course, tremendous life, there's 80,
Motion stop.
and then 60, 77. No. Yeah, 77, sunset.
all right.
Board meeting.
Lori, I have no paper
Uh,
to take notes.
$55.
If you're not on the board, and you're paying them.
We have that online for this.
Out on the board.
Yeah.
You know, okay. Anyway, so we are so.
Please take care.